For those who don't know us yet, we are First Phosphate. We're traded on the Canadian Securities Exchange as PHOS, in Frankfurt as KD0, and then on the OTCQB as FRSPF. We are high purity phosphate, but not for fertilizers, only for the lithium iron phosphate battery industry. What you really got to look at here is, everyone talks about nickel, manganese, cobalt batteries. They certainly have a place, but, now almost 70% of batteries that are being produced are lithium iron phosphate batteries. And they're being produced for certain reasons. They got superior fire safety, well-defined performance, low cost, longer life, higher charge, discharge efficiency. And also, if you look at it, these are the batteries that are going mostly into energy storage. So if you have a Tesla at home and you've got a battery wall in your garage, that'll be LFP. When you see these big solar and wind projects, they got to store energy. They're all storing it on LFP. So, there's a little bit of a misconception out there in the marketplace that, batteries are just for vehicles. NMC batteries, nickel, manganese, cobalt batteries, yes, they're a large portion is automobiles. But if you look at LFP, only 7.1% is really small vehicles. A bigger portion of LFP, about 11%, is transportation, buses. For instance, all of public transportation in China right now is on LFP battery. And then you've got, other smaller sectors as well, but telecom. But the biggest one is really this energy storage market. And that's where we're going after. That's where, First Phosphate's got all of its offtakes for LFP cathode active material. It's almost $500 million between now and 2030 per annum. And that's all coming from energy storage. Very little being negotiated right now in the auto sector. So when you think of First Phosphate, think of large scale energy storage, and think about also smaller applications such as scooters, e-bikes, wheelchairs, all the robotics that are starting up. There's really a big push into all of that, and that's all on LFP battery. The key, the secret to our sauce here is really this rock here. This is igneous phosphate rock, so it's like volcanic rock. It's phosphate that's been trapped in volcanic rock for eons. Now, you might say, well, that's kind of odd, right? Because most of the phosphate that is from Morocco, and it's sedimentary rock. It looks like sand. You have that as well in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida. Yeah, all of that is phosphate as well, but that's kind of low purity phosphate. It's got a lot of the nasties in it, like cadmium, uranium, thorium, and it can really only be used to make fertilizer. A small portion of that can be used to make this high purity phosphoric acid, which is what is needed for battery. But only 10 to 20%, and only if the fertilizer producer is willing to go to that length to do it, and most are not. But with this igneous rock, it's so pure that almost 100%, at least 90%, turns directly into purified phosphoric acid for battery, and you don't have to play around in the fertilizer markets at all, which are commoditized. So we get to really play in the high technology market and be focused really on the high technology market. The other thing that's important is the fertilizers and the phosphate for fertilizers are already in decline, right? So by 2037, 61% of North American phosphate will be depleted and will be completely at the mercy of international markets, mostly Morocco. So it would be very difficult, even if you could, to bring on a phosphate source for batteries that would have to go into food, because we're going to deplete in food already. So what we're bringing on here is a fully new deposit that doesn't compete with food, and that's fully made for high purity sources for purified phosphoric acid for LFP battery. Okay, and then any of our byproducts as well are all fully recyclable because of the purity of this rock. So this is a deposit. This is at Bégin-Lamarche, which is in just 2 hours north of Quebec. We've got a PEA on this. The PEA is showing a $2.1 billion net present value and an IRR of 37%. Currently, get a load of this. The stock trades at 1.5% of its PEA. And that PEA was done at a phosphate price which is really low right now, which is kind of the secular lows. It kind of tends to go into these really secular lows and then into these secular highs. But the secular, it'll be higher highs, I think, for the foreseeable future, because phosphate around the world is extinguishing, and the only real bearers of the phosphate are going to be Morocco moving forward. Nonetheless, our deposit here is on surface. Okay, you can see the rock on surface, and we've only drilled down 200 to 300 meters. Most of these deposits in other countries, the few that do have igneous rock, like in Russia, they go down about 1.5 to 2 kilometers. So you could go down here another 10, 15 times, and we're fully open at depth. But already with what we got here in our PEA is 23 years of phosphate. And that 23 years of phosphate, just to give you an equivalent, could produce 350 gigawatt hours of LFP battery. Now, what does that mean? How do you sum that up? I know I said we're, small vehicles is not our sector, but just to give you an example, between Canada, Mexico, and the US, there are 12 million vehicles, small vehicles produced every year. So that would be enough to power half of the fleet, 50% of all those vehicles for the next 23 years with LFP battery. So we're talking a massive amount of potential LFP battery that can be made from this deposit. And we're talking also years and years more if we had to extend the deposit. But right now the PEA is set at 23 years. Like I said, $2.1 billion NPV at sort of the lower end range of phosphate. This phosphate usually ends up going for double the price anyways because of its purity and other factors. And also an IRR of 37%, but a payback on the mine of under 3 years, which is really important, and a strip ratio of 1.5 to 1. So if that's not good enough, the mine is right here, the eventual mine. This is the Saguenay-Lac-St-Jean region of Quebec. If anybody hasn't been up there, I really encourage you to go up there. Just a wonderful part of the world. This is the St. Lawrence. You come down here and you've got Quebec City right here. 2 hours west is Montreal, and 2 hours north is where is Saguenay. In case people don't know, Saguenay right now is kind of the aluminum area of North America. It's where Rio Tinto is based. It's where the old Alcan was based, and it's where all the aluminum and a lot of the forestry products come out of Quebec for North America. Now, forestry has been hit pretty bad, and the aluminum is going pretty good. But as you know, there's the tariff threats on there. So there's a lot of industry in this area that is really looking for new employable functions. And also it's going to be a really strategic area for the Quebec government moving forward because the tariffs will hit this area of Quebec quite heavily. So they do need new employment and new sunset industries, and that's perfect industry what First Phosphate is working on here. But more importantly, there's an industrial base in the area because a lot of these critical minerals projects, it's great to talk all about them and invest in them, and bigger is better. But what happens when it comes down to actually building out a mine, right? When I started this project, I'm the major investor in this company as well. I've got well over 1.5 million of my own money into this project. And of course, I got to be looking for an operational means to get the mine into production. So I was really attracted by just the logistical greatness of this area. So you've got a deep sea port that comes up into here. Our offtake, which is already definitive, we'll be able to move from here, be able to move over to Europe and anywhere else in the world. Our mine is about 50 kilometers from the deep sea port. It's about 50 kilometers from the NATO base Bagotville that protects this whole area. And it's about 50 kilometers from the intermodal station, truck to rail. So as you can see, the logistics are exceptional. And it's also 50 kilometers from where our second and third transformations will be, which will be our phosphoric acid plant at the port of Saguenay, and also our iron phosphate and lithium iron phosphate plant in the same area. So we're all very tight. The logistics are there. And when this does go online, we'll be producing phosphate that will go 100% into LFP batteries, getting the cost down, getting the carbon footprint down, and above all, having the logistics and the labor in the area to make this very feasible. So, that's always a big thing after you get through your PA. Well, is the project actually feasible? Well, look at this. And we've already done all of our internal pre-feasibility. The next stage is to move into our feasibility study and to be able to get the mine active for our off-takers, which are ready to take it in 2029. A little bit about our plan. This is sort of, a 3-stage plan. Obviously, extraction and concentration at the mine site at Bégin-Lamarche, as I said, then moving it downstream into phosphoric acid and to LFP cathode active material. And then that gets sold to those who make the battery cells and the battery packs. Large number of partners and off-takers at the table. Very good relationship with collaboration agreement with the Indigenous group that's local, also with the Quebec government. GK and Hoganey's off-taker for our magnetite, and will provide back iron powder for us to make the LFP, largest steel atomizer in the world. Crayon, world's largest producer of purified phosphoric acid. American Battery Factory at the table for offtake on LFP. Export-Import Bank of the United States ready to finance equipment for the mine, and a number of other great partners such as Glencore for sulfuric acid, and a number of other partners, local and worldwide. We're a management team that meets and beats milestones. I'm very proud of that. So we've come a long way. We've got a bit of a way to go, but what we've done in the past, we've always met and broken all of our timelines, and we want to stick to that. we want to be a management that's there for shareholders. Very, very tight share structure, 89 million shares out. About 60%, 65% of the company is owned by board and management, and also shareholders, and very tight family offices and people close to us. Our board alone, I think, has got about 35% of the company alone, plus management. Right now, maybe the public float is about, I don't know, 20 million, of which I think about 3 to 5 million are free, which are slowly being gobbled up, I hope. Board and management, we're a very good cross-functional board and management, very, very good depth and breadth, people from all over the industry. You have to understand this. This company is almost like a backwards integrated technology company. We're focused on the technology. We're focused on the downstream, on getting the LFP cathode active material built, but we're vertically integrated and backwards integrated all the way into the mine, the phosphate mine, so we can control the whole process once this is all put in place. And so we've got experts from the whole gamut of the spectrum here. We announced our first Saguenay plant, iron phosphate plant, our first 10,000 tons at La Baie, Quebec. That went down really well. We had all of the local Quebec and federal and Indigenous politicians at the table. We're currently in the process of getting that financed. That's going very well here. So we'll have some updates on that shortly. Here we talk obviously about phosphate in the world. The igneous phosphate, as you can see, is basically is very rare, right? There's only this area of Quebec that has it. Some mines in Russia, which are now cut off. And then, the supply here in Southern Africa is difficult and inaccessible. What you have here in Brazil is hard to get to, obviously, because it's cut off by the fact that there's rare earth elements that cannot be separated. So that is now going into fertilizer. So there's very few mines that can really function for purified phosphoric acid. And we've got one, and we've got one here at home, and we've got it close to infrastructure where it matters. And this is what you really got to focus on. This is kind of the requirement for purified phosphoric acid. This is kind of just the regular demand that will be there forever, or just on regular needs for purified phosphoric acid, such as for water purification. It goes into Coca-Cola. It goes into toothpaste. It goes into pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, and this is the supply that's predicted, right? The light blue line. But this is what they're predicting, that the real need for purified phosphoric acid is going to be for LFP battery, and they're being very conservative. I think the need is going to be like this. So we're in an area where we have the right rock to make a lot of purified phosphoric acid on a curve that's going to be going like this. So you know what? Maybe I'll just stop there, and I'll just see if there's any questions. And just wanted to thank everybody for being here and keeping an eye on the stock. I know everyone's focused on gold, but sometimes I like to be a little bit of a contrarian in my life, and I think it's important to be able to focus on something else, right?
Nothing wrong with a little diversification, right? For sure.
Yes.
Yeah. I actually have a couple questions as they're starting to roll in here. You said you're going to build two separate plants. Is that correct? Like a phosphoric acid plant, and then a lithium. What was it? An lithium iron phosphate plant? Is that what you said?
That was good, Arlen. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So let's think of it as like three parts of the company. A is where you extract the mineral and you create a phosphate concentrate. So that will happen at Bégin-Lamarche, the mine. Part of that is off-taken. That's being sold already to a definitive off-taker. Between 20 and 40% of that mine is off-taken. But then you move that into a second transformation is to make the phosphoric acid. So we plan to do a phosphoric acid plant together with our partner in Belgium, Prayon. And we already have about 40% of that off-taken, but we're holding on to a little bit of the rest of it, or quite a bit of the rest of it, to then move into our third transformation, which is where you make lithium iron phosphate cathode active material. It's the powder. The powder is made with phosphate, iron, and lithium together. And so that's our third plant. And that's a plant that we're already starting up just on a very small scale, 10,000 tons, just to get into that market and to satisfy some client requirements before the mine will be able to backwards integrate into that.
Mm-hmm. Now, is that permitted already?
Yes, permitted. Yeah. We're in an existing building, and we've gone through our feasibility study. Our feasibility study has been done, and we're just at the financing stage right now.
Yeah. So yeah, one of the questions is how soon can that iron phosphate plant start production?
Look, we're hoping for 2026. It is dependent on a few factors. The offtake is there, the clients are there. It's just, there's a lot going on right now in the economy, so it just getting that together as soon as we can. But everything's in place, just pending financing right now.
Yeah. Now we keep talking this about these tariff threats. What's that doing for your local community and your industry and you know I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Support for your project.
So it's doing wonders for it. It's counterintuitive, but I think what Trump has said to Canada said, like, if you guys are just not going to do anything with your land, I'm just going to come and take it over. So Canada's kind of saying, okay, well, maybe it's time to do something with our land. Maybe it's time to start building the massive projects and the pipelines and stop opposing everything all the time. And, let's get together and let's build it right. And let's build it for the environment, but let's build it for the people and let's protect our sovereignty. So on that level, it's doing a lot on that level. But the second level is especially Quebec and especially Saguenay-Lac-St-Jean. Saguenay-Lac-St-Jean is targeted as perhaps the first or second region to get hit the most in Quebec because of the aluminum, and because it is a mono industry. It's got aluminum and it's got lumber. And what did Trump say about both things? He doesn't need any
Yeah.
of them, right? He's going to open up his own forest. So that's really going to hurt us badly. Either way, like the damage has already been done, right? When the words are spoken, the damage is done. And so there's going to, they're really seeing the need to bring forward projects that can take care of the job loss that's coming from the other sectors. I mean, the forestry sector in there is already in full crisis. Aluminum has been great, but even there, it's like less and less jobs every year. So they need new industry out there. And, the other fact is our offtake is not with the U.S. So that's what they're looking for. They're looking for non-U.S. offtake. So I don't know how it could align any better. We got an excellent Indigenous partnership. You can see our Indigenous flag here on this side that I wear
Yeah.
proudly.
Yeah.
We've got a very great relationship together with our Indigenous group, and we've made it public in December. They're looking to be involved deeply in the project and to invest in the project. So we're going through those stages as well.
Yeah. Awesome. We're gonna wrap up here, John. So yeah, I started following you when you went public. I've worked with a lot of companies that are in this kind of smaller space, and it's tough. And you are killing it. You got some great liquidity in your stock. You communicate really, really well with your shareholders. I am a shareholder, and I get your messages in email and your updates. So if you want to follow John, they do an excellent job communicating to the shareholders, which once again I think is extremely important for a CEO. So good job, John.
Oh, thanks, Arlen. Thanks for the kudos. Appreciate all the good hard work that you do for the community as well.
Yeah, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I'm really honored to be here. I just, $4.5 billion worth of companies today. So that's a huge honor today to be able to be trusted with that. So,
Oh, that's great. Yeah, manage
okay.
that wisely. It's a lot of
Yeah.
money.
Right on. Have a great day, John. And we'll be following your story very closely.
Thanks, Arlen. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks to you and
Cheers.
everybody. Have a good
Yeah.
day. Bye-bye.